Okay, welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how we doing?
We are doing well. Big win. Big win.
Huge, huge. Obviously, in case you missed it, which God forbid, I hope no one did, Milwaukee won tonight's matchup 138 to 122. I mean, let's be honest here. It really wasn't close. There was not even remotely, maybe within the first few minutes, but Milwaukee had a big second quarter, and that just kind of took care of things. Which again, I'm not really surprised about because I kind of figured Milwaukee would have a big second quarter, like a big game, but I didn't expect the 3-point barrage that they put on tonight.
Just nonchalantly ties an NBA record for 3-pointers made in a playoff game after missing 34 the last game.
It was. I use this word a lot. It was insane, especially coming from Pat Connaughton, who, if you haven't been following this whole season, Pat Connaughton has been in a 2-month-long shooting slump. He really only had one good month, the month of January, and really outside of that, it really hasn't been a good year for him. But goodness gracious, he shot the crap out of the basketball tonight. 22 points on 6 threes. And me and Evan were kind of texting before is, we knew that Milwaukee had the firepower to kind of withstand Giannis not being in there. And even Jay Crowder said as much that, while we don't want to play without Giannis, we know we have the talent level to kind of overcome his absence. And you saw that tonight.
It was obviously the Bucks have the talent to beat the Heat without Giannis. It's a no-brainer. So the last game, obviously, with the amount of shooting that they had, or that the Heat had on 3, they shot like 60% from 3. Yeah. Obviously, that's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen to a lot of teams on back-to-back nights. So that was one of the things where you could kind of like take away of the odds of this happening is slim to none. And especially Kevin Love hitting 4 threes. That's a very rare occurrence. These days he used to be lights out. But it was, again, big to have the hot shooting, not just from the guys that you expected to come from. Kind of like what you were saying. So Pat, again, was one of the big shooters. And then also Grayson Allen, I think, had a big contribution as well. He was 4 for 8 on threes. One of them was a continuation 4-point play. So again, Grayson, Pat, and Joe Ingles, I think, really carried the 3-point barrage, as one would say, throughout that game. I feel like if it wasn't for like those guys shooting, it's a whole different game.
And a lot of times in the postseason, it kind of comes down to the law of averages. Like in the regular season, Miami was the 25th ranked offense in the NBA. And, it's just they just don't have much. If they don't have Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo having good games, it's just there's nothing Milwaukee has to worry about.
Yep.
Now, granted, Jimmy Butler still had a good game. He only missed 4 shots. He scored 25 points. But it's like when Milwaukee has that hot shooting night that they had tonight, there's really nothing you could do to stop it. Like Jimmy Butler could have scored like 40 by himself, and there was nothing that he could have done. And obviously Bam obviously had a good game too, but it's just I just knew Milwaukee was going to come out with a sense of urgency in tonight's game, just because of the fact that they didn't do so last game. There just wasn't a whole lot of sense of urgency there. There was really no energy that was really being shown. The energy was low, like right after Giannis left, from the crowd and the players. So yeah, it was it was a very, I guess, inspiring performance, I would say.
It was, and it was a much needed win. Obviously, you don't want to just lose your home court advantage. You go down 2-0. So again, it was I remember we mentioned this last time. It was, again, a game where they knew what they need to do in order to kind of come back. They mentioned it earlier, but I was expecting the Bucks to win, but I genuinely was not expecting them to play like this. I didn't realize I wasn't like I don't really like pay like really close attention sometimes, like how much they score in a quarter, but seeing them score 46 in a quarter after the Warriors scored 50 in the first quarter right before the playoffs started, but everything was good really up until the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter, they kind of fell apart. I'm not going to lie. I did get a little nervous when it got down to like 14 with like 6 minutes left. Um, I think really the only thing they did wrong was just not being able to like solidify a like positive closeout. Obviously, they still won by 16, but just to kind of like let them catch back up by 20 points. Isn't the best thing, but again, it wasn't, they didn't win by like 4 or 5. They still held it to 16, but that was the only, I think, downfall part of the game, but everything else, everything was clicking.
Yeah,
everything was clicking.
Yeah, I think if people didn't really watch the game, obviously they still won by a large margin. It could be one of those things where I guess if you weren't watching, you could be like, oh, that score was kind of closer than we thought it was going to be, because Milwaukee was up by over 30 points.
Yep.
And like I think people are going to ask like, well, how they win by 16? Well, because and here's the other thing to note is that Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo obviously did not play in the fourth quarter, and Milwaukee, they don't, I'm going to be honest, they don't really have like guys who I would consider to be like they don't have like a lot of like, I'm trying to think of a word to say, like Lindell Wigginton type guys where you just throw in a bunch of like other guys. Like these are still like high quality players. Especially like when you still have like it's not really like extra guys that they have out there. They still had Joe Ingles playing, they still had Javon Carter. So these are like main like rotation guys or whatever.
They're end of the game backups.
Yeah.
To their Cody Zeller and is it Caleb Martin?
Caleb Martin.
Yep.
Well, he's a main rotation guy.
Highsmith again had 12 minutes.
Yeah. But by the way, I need to address this. I don't know what's going on with Cody Zeller's hair or his hairline. I would prefer if the cameras don't zoom in on him or like show Cody Zeller at all, because that's not a good look for him. Okay, I used to watch him in college. He had the mop, and that's fine. But now he looks like he's 45. Okay, he looks like he's balding. So if whoever's running these like cameras, please don't try not to show Cody Zeller, please, because he looks bald. Okay, he just looks like he's 45 years old playing in the NBA.
Masked Cody Zeller.
And I was also reading a story about this, is that there was actually one guy who we can blame for Jimmy Butler's outburst in game one. It was this guy from Milwaukee who gave him like a coffee thing, because Jimmy Butler's like really serious about coffee. So he gave him like his old coffee blender or whatever. So whoever gave Jimmy Butler, helped Jimmy Butler have a massive game one, thanks. I mean, there wasn't too many things to note. It's not like Chris Middleton didn't have like a massive game as he did last game. He only scored 16, but I mean, like I've said before, is that Milwaukee needed the scoring to be balanced if they were going to win this game.
Yes.
Okay. Balanced and efficient. Okay. I've noticed this season is that when Milwaukee's scoring has been balanced and efficient, they've won like a majority of their games. Okay. You saw in game one is that when they only have like Chris Middleton and like Bobby Portis, the only two guys really popping off, like you're just not going to win too many playoff games like that.
Yeah, it's one of the games where it's Giannis has 50 and the next highest score has like 13. So again, it was 13, 16, 25, 24, 16, 22, 17 for the main rotation, those 7 guys. But the 25 and 24 for Brook and Jrue. But again, everything else is super close where, again, it's spread out. Everyone was contributing, and it was just good basketball. I'm not going to lie. That was a high-level playoff game. I'm curious to see what's going to happen for game 3. Obviously, I don't think the Bucks are going to shoot like this for 3 again. I could see somewhat consistency, but again, they tied an NBA record for 25 threes. Very rare to do. If Giannis is back, which I'm hoping is going to happen, there's no way he doesn't play game 3. I'm hoping they can take game 3 to again be up again. You never want to play from behind. But predictions, I'm hoping they can win. I think Giannis is going to play. If he was moved to questionable today, I would assume with the extra rest that he'll be back for game 3.
Yeah, I think this was more of a precaution, more so than
yes, it was 100% because they knew they could beat him, but why risk it when you don't need to?
And look, it wasn't. I mean, I kind of got my hopes up because it was doubtful, so I was like, all right, that makes sense. But then moved to questionable, so I was like, oh, I don't know, it's like 50-50. But then they announced like a couple hours before that he wasn't going to play, which I'm completely fine with. I think for Giannis, you have to kind of give him as much rest as possible. Especially with an injury like that, because you could suffer an injury at any time in the playoffs. It's a long season, in my opinion, too long.
Yep.
Because I heard people complain about this, and I agree. Is that the NBA playoffs is way too long. It drags out, drags on. Like for example, today's Wednesday. Why do I have to wait 3 more days for another game to be played?
Yep.
And then what's the next game? Tuesday?
Yeah.
Then another 3 days for the next game to be played. It's the first round. That's the problem. Is I think the first round is just way too spread out.
Yeah, 3 days in between for a game where they're not traveling. I mean, there are nights where they're traveling back to back different states and they're playing. Obviously, I don't want them to just do back to backs like that, but it's a week to play 3 games is absurd.
Yeah, it is. And look, I do wish the NBA would kind of do something about the playoffs in terms of because look, if you think about it, it's like the grind is worth it, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, mid-June, it's stretching out a little farther. Like early June, I'd be fine with, but like mid-June, that's that's long.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's again a health issue as well. If you're stretching these guys out for too long, I don't know. It's annoying just to play playoffs for 2 months.
Yeah,
I always felt like the first round should be like the MLB where they do a best of 5 first to 3 wins or something like that, where you can shorten the first round and move to the next one. Again, always something new to do, but obviously it's never going to change. But yeah, it's a long process, but it's fun. It's competitive. It's just long.
Well, at least it's not a best of 3.
Yeah.
If it was a best of 3, whoever won for Miami and Milwaukee this weekend probably would be able to advance already. Which I think is kind of a load of BS because in my opinion, I don't think a best of 3 really tells who the best team is. But remind me, is the first round, is that a best of 5 or a best of 7?
For the NBA?
Yeah.
Everything is best of 7.
Yeah. They used to do best of 5?
No, I was saying I would like them to do it just to speed up the first round like the MLB does, where they do the tiebreakers and then, or not the tiebreakers, but like who's the wild card and then best of 5.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know, because there's been a lot of rule changes, so you don't know if they did a best of 5 at one point, and then all of a sudden they changed it to a best of 7.
Yeah, always been 7. I think it should be changed to 5.
I'd be
fine for the first round.
I'd be fine with it. I'd be fine with it. I don't know. I guess the NBA is trying to get as much money as they can. But getting back to the game for a sec, I was very pleased to see Brook Lopez get ingratiated into the offense. Because look, I didn't really notice this in game one. I was a little more tuned in for game two now that I was, I guarantee the Bucks win. So I was like, I took basically every possession serious. Is that, it looked like for a lot of times is that Miami didn't match up Brook Lopez with Bam Adebayo. They were putting Max Strus on him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, throw it in the post. Just throw it in the post. Let Brook Lopez work.
Yeah, they started that really early. I think even the first possession they scored was like that.
And that was the problem in game one is that Brook Lopez only took 7 shots. Okay, they didn't exploit that matchup at all. I love Milwaukee, but if they're not making threes, it's not good, and it's not good. And look, they've had games where they've had hot shooting stretches where they've been really, really good shooting from three, but then they've also had playoff games where it's like, oh, gross, 11 at 45, yuck, So it was good to see, and I think Milwaukee should do that the rest of the series now, because Miami's not really playing Cody Zeller. Cody Zeller doesn't really scare me as a paint presence. So I do think they need to get Brook Lopez a little more involved on the low block and see what he can do. Draw fouls, because I don't think there's anybody for Miami that can go on him one-on-one. He's just too big, and he just has an array of post moves they can go to.
And one of the big things, obviously, with Bam Adebayo is he's 6'9". Brooks way taller, 7'1", not way taller, but enough to kind of overcrowd him. But yeah, it's just the lack of Brook obviously can test, but he still gives so much room that allows the shooter to complete a full shot before he starts to contest, which can kind of get annoying sometimes when he allows them to just shoot the ball without force them to take a bad shot. They're going to get a good shot no matter what.
I do think he needs to. What's the phrase? I think he needs to come out a little farther on Jimmy Butler, because I still think Jimmy Butler is getting too deep into his shot or getting too deep into the paint. So if they can, and again, it's going to be really hard to limit Jimmy Butler, because I don't know, his game just turns into a whole new level in the postseason. I don't know why. I never hear about how good Jimmy Butler is in the regular season. I never hear about him being an MVP consideration. But once the playoffs, man,
once the playoffs come, it's playoff Jimmy. It's a whole different player.
Which I think is a fair question to ask now is, if you're at a game 7, right? Who would you rather have, Jimmy Butler or Kawhi Leonard?
See, I feel like most would want to say Kawhi, but I feel like the majority will now veer towards Jimmy Butler.
I think so, yeah, because Jimmy Butler is he's gotten it done. He's clutching the playoffs, and I mean, look, him and Kawhi Leonard, very similar. I'm not saying careers, but playoff arcs. It's
yeah.
Now, I think the difference probably is the fact that Kawhi has won a championship, multiple, and Jimmy hasn't won anything. But I mean, it's not for his play. You can tell you that right now. And that's the thing when we talk about postseason play is that, when pundits talk about certain teams, it's never really about the team. It's always about one specific guy. If LeBron could average 35 in a postseason, but if his team doesn't win, or LeBron has does everything by himself and his team doesn't help him, there are going to be certain people who are going to be like, oh, well, LeBron, that's all on LeBron.
Yeah.
where it's just, and I don't know if that's necessarily fair. I think Giannis gets a little bit of a hall pass because he obviously missed game one, but say Milwaukee doesn't advance on to the next rounds, it's going to be like, oh, well, it's like Giannis. Like it feels like it's always one specific guy or two specific guys more so than how the team did.
Yes.
What else do we got here? The other encouraging aspect from this game is that Milwaukee did force Miami to have 17 turnovers.
Yeah, it was getting to the point where anything like down low or quick passes again that they were able to work out. I know Jrue Holiday had a late steal in the game that I think led to a 3. But it was, again, Cody Zeller had it right under the hoop, just kind of swiped it to him. So again, just the quick thinking, I think, was one of the big aspects, I guess, on their defensive skills for turnovers. But so yeah, the 17 turnovers, I know I just had the stat up, but off of those itself, Bucks scored 36 points off turnovers. Oh, no, sorry. It refreshed. 15 off turnovers. They had 30 points. So, again, one of those things where you cut that in half. Again, they win by a larger margin. So, big thing for them to work on, I would say, when they go to Miami is when they turn it over. Again, you got to get back on defense because their transition that we mentioned the last time is not good.
No, and it was actually better this game. I didn't notice.
It was, yes.
I didn't notice too many runouts for Miami.
Yeah, I think there's only like one, like not like as wide open where it's just, oh, he's open, little dunk, but one play. But yeah, I didn't see a lot where it was just like consistently passing it over.
Yeah, and kind of contrast that to last game where Miami had 14 points off turnovers and Milwaukee only had 6. So it was one of those things where, with Milwaukee, Miami kind of forced them to have a little, kept them in like half court offense. So, Milwaukee was able to run out, get a little bit, get some transition buckets. And, that's kind of what's made them successful this season is that they do like to get out and run, but they're not like, it's kind of in the middle. Like it's not like they don't have the Sacramento Kings pace, but they're kind of right in the middle where they really like to get out and run with Jrue Holiday. I've seen Bobby Portis do it, but it's more so with Giannis. Like Giannis does a good job of setting other guys up. So I mean, job by Milwaukee able to really, really do a good job of points in transition.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say for just for game 3. Sorry, I had a little brain fart. Game 3, I would say their biggest thing is going to be knowing Miami just lost the second game. Obviously, they're going to come to home and going to be obviously playing hard. So I think the Bucks need to prepare for the difference of now playing away, which they've done in the past many times in bigger games. But obviously, they know going into it, the pressure that's going to be put on them. But again, we're going to assume Giannis is playing. So I think they're going to have to, again, have a hot start just to kind of build a lead early. Again, can't be playing from behind, especially when it gets to double digits.
Yeah. But I'm going to be honest. Now that Milwaukee's going to Miami, I'm not really worried about Miami's home atmosphere because there really isn't any. I'm going to be honest. When they had that play-in game against the Bulls, there was a lot of empty seats there. It's Miami. Okay, Miami is just look. I'm sure it's a great city. It's just a very overrated sports town. There's nothing there. They got the Marlins, they got the Heat, but I've never heard of Miami really being like, oh, it's got a really electric atmosphere there. It doesn't. There's just so many other things to do in Miami.
Then go to the Heat game.
But see, here's the thing that I'm always going to hold against Heat fans. 2013, when they had LeBron, they were down by a little bit, kind of heading into the fourth quarter, with 6 minutes left. And a bunch of their fans left and then tried to get back in the arena. Okay? like you don't do that if you're one of the top fans. I get it. It was how long ago was it? It was like 10 years ago, so I should let it go. But I don't know. That's just kind of indicative of how the Heat are as like fans, where it's like they just don't. It's just not a good atmosphere there. I don't consider their arena to be like raucous.
Yeah, like the Kings are right now.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about the Heat, like Milwaukee being distracted by like
the
atmosphere in Miami. Like Boston's a different story. Boston gets loud.
Mm-hmm.
But I've watched a bunch of Bucks games where they played the Heat in Miami, and there really hasn't been like, ooh, this like the crowd's really affecting the game.
They took obviously the year they won the championship, they took the 2
Mm-hmm.
to close out. So I'm hoping they could just take game 3 right away. And hopefully try to at least I really hope the Bucks don't lose another game this series. I hope they can just kind of close out the next 3. But again, you never know with the NBA and with the Heat, Jimmy Butler wise, but I'm hoping they can at least take game 3 again, play up, don't ever play from behind. That's my mentality for the entire series or the entire playoffs is always play ahead, never play from behind. That's the goal. That's the goal. I don't want to have to worry about having to win the game for sure. Like going into it, like it's the games where it's like you have to win are the ones that are the hardest.
Yeah, and obviously Milwaukee was able to stay ahead practically the whole game.
Yeah, they went down by 3, and that was the worst lead that they were down by.
Although I'm sure there was a portion of Bucks fans who were nervous because they know how Coach Budenholzer is when he has a lead. Is I don't know. It just kind of we let our foot off the gas. We allow easy points. We don't play with as much intensity as we did before.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen it happen this year. We've seen it happen in the playoffs. So I don't know. I'm like always leery every time Milwaukee gets a big lead because I've kind of seen them blow it.
Yeah,
I think this one at this point was well in hand, but I've seen even in the Toronto series a couple of years ago, I've seen like 15-point leads get like dwindled and then lost. So I mean, we're always leery. We're like, okay, we have a lead right now, but can we keep our composure and can we keep it up?
Yeah, which is a lot with the fourth quarter from today again. Just stupid points, stupid turnovers for the Bucks that they gave up, and it was one of those things where it's you got them down to 14, but you're up 36 in this game. Yeah, obviously you're not going to consistently keep a 36-point lead, but for it to like really go down to like lower than 25 is probably not the best way for how they were playing to only win by 16 was interesting, I think, just because of that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I think there were a lot of fans who were like, well, how come we didn't beat him by like 45? Well, that's pretty hard to beat an NBA team by that much.
Yeah, they weren't going to win by 35, 36. I was hoping at least 25. I felt like that was reasonable for the effort and the shots that they were making. But yeah, 16 was, again, it's a good, but from being up 36, it's always a hard like turnaround.
And here's the other thing you might have missed. So obviously, I'm sure everybody saw it. Is that Giannis went out with the back injury in Game 1. Kevin Love tried to take a charge. It was called a block. Giannis hurt his back. That whole story.
Yeah. I know you're going to go with this one.
Game 2. This was a perfect time for Bobby Portis to take his little shots at Kevin Love.
He did win Game 1 too, like right under the hoop, like a good forearm right to the dude. Some of those just natural hits that they do that would kill me. I would snap my back, and then they just like kind of like walk it off. I'm like, I would be in absolute pain.
So Bobby Portis in his little subliminal messaging was like, if you ever do that to Giannis again, like I will fight you. You're not doing that again. Okay. I understand that's a basketball play, but let me tell you something. Okay. You mess with Giannis, you mess with me.
Uh-huh.
Like it was like literally, it was like they were talking about it earlier in the game, and I didn't notice like he did that as a little subliminal message to be like, hey, you knocked our guy out of the game. So like now you got me to mess with. Okay. And then just as they were talking about in like game 2 in the in tonight's game, like he did it again as they were throwing Kevin Love like a post up pass. And it was just and then that wasn't just Bobby Portis either. Jay Crowder, a little less severe, but he did kind of hold on to Jimmy Butler's leg.
Yep.
Slightly.
Yeah, that was an odd foul to call on, not the leg holding, like the initial call.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler like jumps over him for a rebound,
Yeah.
and it's a defensive foul on Jay Crowder. You'd have to like see the play to like kind of see, but I don't know. It was an odd foul for them to call, but oh well. I would say one thing though on the Bobby Portis topic.
Yeah.
One thing again, I love Bobby Portis. I love his intensity, but kind of it happens in the finals in 2021. There's sometimes where he goes a little too far with like the chirping, where he gets the technical. Like there's somewhere it's like you can do it, but like he tries to like extend it a little too far. I know he did that in the finals, where he was like running off after a bad play and like ran like the entire length of the floor. And Chris Middleton was like, dude, you can't do that. And Chris had to say that again today, but I like the intensity, gets everyone engaged, but in certain situations that technical can haunt you.
No, I agree. And actually speaking of technical, Bobby actually did pick up a technical in this game. I don't think it was for what he said to Kyle Lowry. I think it's more or less what he did to Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
Threw an elbow or threw his hand out. And
it was like aggressive pushing and then the chirping, and then all the ref was like, all right, I'm done. T.
It's just, Bobby gets really into the game.
He does, and it's a good thing. It just sometimes can go a little too far.
Yeah, I think what you call it is what's the word? It's controlled aggression. I think is what is that you're not really worried about like anything he's gonna do to someone else. Obviously there was that story that came out about him a few years ago when he was in his first or second year when he punched Nikola Mirotic in the face. You're not worried that he's going to do that again. But it's going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, this is not really a guy you want to mess with on the basketball court. Mm-hmm. Like they just had that poll of like the Athletic just recently had a poll of like which player would you least like to fight. Bobby Portis, I believe, was like down. Like he didn't really make a big mark on the list. They actually voted for James Johnson, but I do think Bobby Portis should be on the list of like, oh, this is not a guy I want to mess with at all.
I think a lot of the guys on the Bucks team, even like a lot of the guys in the Bucks know how to chirp. And I think it's an underrated thing that they have. Like Joe Ingles is always in someone's face.
Oh yeah,
and it's not just on the Bucks. He did on the Jazz too. Like if you look up clips of him, he's a trash talker.
Paul George.
Yep.
He did it with Paul George.
that one game on the Jazz where he was going at him. But yeah, it's always fun to have a little competitiveness behind him on that aspect of the game.
No, and I think that's kind of what I realized. I guess it's really hard to watch like Utah Jazz games. I kind of knew about Joe Ingles, but I didn't know he was like a trash talker.
I didn't either. I just knew about his shot.
I just knew he was a really good 3-point shooter, but as you kind of watch him up close, it's like, oh my god, this guy could talk a little shit. I like it.
With those Australian accent just all in your face.
No, and that's the beauty of this Bucks team is they have a lot of guys on this team this year who's like just ultra competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think every NBA player is ultra competitive, but I don't know. It just feels like John Horst has constructed a team of just guys who just want to win at all costs.
And they all mesh together well with their aspects in the game.
Yeah, I mean, you think Giannis is one of those guys? Like, you think Giannis is like Giannis tries? I feel like he tries to avoid confrontation. I don't see him. I
feel like he does, but he tries to avoid it. But when he doesn't avoid it, he goes all in. him and Thanasis headbutting people. Like, I feel like Giannis. I don't think he would fight someone, but he definitely can get like aggressive.
He's not soft, but like I also think that Milwaukee also has like other guys on the team who kind of step in and be like, "Yes, I don't want you taking care of this.
Yep,
I got this for you."
Yeah, that Brook incident.
Oh, that was
Brook
legendary.
easily could fight. Bobby easily, like, you got a lot of those guys who are willing to scuffle.
Yeah, like I don't think, and I think that's smart for Milwaukee because I'm gonna be honest, I don't really want Giannis fighting anybody, because I just think he's way too important to this team.
Yeah, and not a good look for him.
No, like I don't think no. He always like one time, I think one time he was like asked about like the officiating or something.
Yep,
And
the
he was like,
diapers
"How
thing.
much?" And he was like, "How much is a fine?" He's like, "Oh, 6,000." Oh,
I gotta pay for diapers.
That's what he said. So he's like, "I'm keeping my money." I don't
Yep.
know. But yeah, going back to the Jay Crowder play for a sec, you're right. That was a very, very weird play. I thought it was a foul. I think we both of us thought it was a foul on Jimmy Butler.
It like he jumped on top of Jay Crowder, goes up for a
Yeah.
rebound, and he has the ball like somewhat in his hand, and here comes old Jimmy Butler jumping like over him, causing Jay Crowder to fall,
Oh god.
and it's a foul on Jake. I don't know. I don't make the rules. I don't call the fouls. I just thought that was an odd foul.
No, and I think my favorite part, like even watching Jay Crowder and then actually watching Brook, is that they never think they do anything wrong. Like if you hear Brook Lopez, like I always try to be on Brook Lopez's side, but sometimes he'll commit a foul and it'll be
You'll hear him like screaming through the mic.
It'll be like that's not a foul. I didn't foul. It's like look, you slapped him on the wrist. It's like you slapped him. It's like you never committed a foul.
His face is always.
That's why he was one of the Bucks leaders in technical fouls this year.
Yep.
He's always on the officials. And Jay Crowder, I mean, I was like, Jay, I love you. Don't get me wrong, but you did grab his ankle. I mean, you can see this wasn't a Draymond Green, Domantas Sabonis play.
Like, at least he didn't stomp on him.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I don't know why people all of a sudden are grabbing ankles. Can we stop? Can we not?
Ankle biters.
Can we not do that? Goodness. What happened to the good old days when you just, when you wanted to send a message, you just kick someone in the nuts?
Yeah, you clock a dude in the face.
Yeah, like, what are we? Looks like a bunch of 5-year-olds out there when we're just like, you know what it looks like? I don't know if you've ever seen this clip, and hopefully I can post it a little later, but when the Knicks and I think the Heat got into a brawl back in the 90s, like when Jeff Van Gundy grabbed Alonzo Mourning's leg.
Oh yes, and he's like a toddler on their dad's leg. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So basically, what they're bringing back, they're bringing that move back.
Mm-hmm. He's like sitting on his foot, like wrapped around, and he's moving the grown dude just like it's a kid on his foot.
And if you've never seen like Jeff Van Gundy, that's a very small man. Like he's not like like, and he's holding on to like this physical specimen, Alonzo Mourning. It was like 6'10", like 250s, 260s. Like here, that's what everyone's doing nowadays. Oh boy. What was the other thing? Oh, another interesting thing that happened. Hey, I'm just glad to see Duncan Robinson put up those empty calorie stats is what I like to call them. Where he's been bad for almost 2 years, but he pops off for 14 points when
right at the end of the game.
Defense. Yeah.
Yep, game's done. $90 million in the bank.
Yeah, hey, way to earn your money tonight, Duncan. Way to earn your money.
Have one good season in the NBA, you can get a bag and dip like Timothy Mozgov. Like that's $40 or $60 million that he signed and then left the face of the earth.
Hey, I don't want to hear any Timothy Mozgov slang. You know he scored 93 points in a game?
Oh, yeah. Classic meme.
It was like 93 points, like 25. It was like
yep, like the most 2K stat line ever.
2K rookie style.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was, Jesus. Jeez Louise. What else do we got? Not much. I mean, Miami shot 53%. Milwaukee 20 points off turnovers, 52 points in the paint. I don't know. It was just a thorough demolition of
Yeah,
Milwaukee
it was
tonight.
a good game to watch after the last game, and I'm hoping they can continue. Obviously, the 3-point shooting will be a very rare occurrence if it were to happen again in the playoffs, but back-to-back games is very rare. I'm just hoping that they can hit a consistent amount compared to the amount that they're taking, not doing 34 missed shots again. But it'll come down to competitiveness for game 3. Hopefully, again, Giannis is back. Yeah, we'll see. I'm expecting them to win.
Yeah, and obviously Giannis should, if he comes back for game 3, which both of us are expecting he will, he should obviously get his full complement of minutes.
Yes.
I think his back has responded well, I would say. He did miss practice on Monday, which again, we
don't want to push it.
Yeah, you don't want to push it. We kind of expected he would. So he's going to get 3 more days of treatment, and he should be good to go for game 3. So, Evan, you got anything else?
No. Again, hopefully they can take the win. Again, game 3 this weekend. Again, because we got to wait a million days in between. But yeah, hopefully they can come back for a win. Then again, recap on Sunday.
Yep, and obviously because of Evan's working with the Milwaukee
Brewers. I'm going Vogue. I'm going rogue, I should say. I'm not looking at anything until I get home and I start watching that game extremely late.
Yeah, so we will have the recap for you guys on Sunday. So good win from Milwaukee tonight, 138 to 122. This has been this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and we will see you guys on Sunday.